So let's give a quick recap on what happened, and I'll sum it up by starting with this. Buckle up, Schlita.
I'm not going to be able to talk about it without with no longer hiding behind the fancy words like sociological experiment.
Sociologically, okay.
I'm
Yes,
just
look.
insulting if I talk about it.
So the Bacharim, the boys at Mislabeled, the podcast, responded to our response of a thing, and they gave us different reviews, Michael. They gave me and you slightly different reactions.
They did. Well, they're. If I wonder what they'd give me. How'd they give me a review if I had 120,000 followers?
Oh, is that
It
what?
seemed. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you don't deserve the praise, but it seemed like they're a little bit piggybacking on on followers.
Well, to be fair, I was joking around, and you were making a serious point.
That's true.
So if you were kibitzing along, it might have been different. So I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to just clout of any kind. I think it's more like what I was doing, and I'm going to just dip into this now because now scorched earth. That whole podcast is now in my. I'm going to avenge you, Michael.
They were nice to you.
Yeah, they were nice to me, but they messed with my boy. They're all getting impersonated now. They're all getting impersonated, especially
I don't mind, for the record. I don't.
Did you see the other friend, the guest who was on the way? He's like, but what did you think of their take?
He seemed nice.
I liked him. He was great. He kept going. Because Laibel's like, by the way, people say I have a weird voice. And they say I have a weird voice, but buckle up, Shlita. I don't. By the way, I don't hate women like at all. Like, not at all. Like this is Laibel's having a good dream. It's so fun. It's so fun. I'll get into their studio and we'll have a little fun. But they had that guest on who was their friend who was like, but wait. I know he was joking, but what did you think of their take? And here's the thing. So here's what I'll say about it. By the way, let's go. Here's what I'll say about it. What bothered me was that not bothered me. Where he's like, what can I say? The other guy, he's an idiot. The fact that you said the second a woman comes into the studio, we were talking about the Flatbush Girl episode and all of that, and we've already gotten too much back and forth on this. But either way, when you said that and I watched the clip back, I'm like, the larger point you're making isn't really have fundamentally much to do with feminism as much as when they felt like things were threatened or challenged, even though they live that kind of life, they just started to come at her pretty hard. Yeah. But they turned it into you having this like woke liberal perspective, and I thought that was like you're arguing with the wrong point. That's really not what you were saying. So it was kind of talking cross purposes. So come at you if you want, but not for misunderstanding what you were saying. And then he's hiding behind this sociologically, expeditedly, experiment, classic liberal.
Yeah, I thought I used the word sociological. That seemed to like, and then they impersonated me as like a nerd because I used the word sociological.
Sociologically.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the interpretation of what I said was a little bit lazy, but I guess I could have been a little bit more clear with what I was trying to say.
Right.
So yeah, I don't even want to like go back over the point because we already made it. You can go back to that episode.
Yeah, you could see the clip. I think it was funny. It's funny to go back and forth on whatchamacallit.
No, it's fun. It's fun to talk to another group of people through a podcast and never having actually spoken to them.
Right.
We don't know them, and we're having a conversation with them, which is weird and funny and fun. I kept watching after their segment about us, and they mentioned Andrew Schultz, and then Laibel said they were talking about should they insult Andrew Schultz because one day he'll be on the podcast. And he said, yeah, well, one day they'll eventually be on the podcast. Who do you think is going to get Andrew Schultz first, us or them?
I don't know. Not a competition for me. Respectfully.
Answer.
Yeah, sorry. I'm telling the truth. I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's an issue at all. Like, that's the kind of life I live. Yeah, I double down. It's fun. They were good sports about that, and they showered me with some nice love, so I'm a big fan. I love those guys. They're just great.
There you
go. Hey, but Michael, you've been watching them for a while, so you know what? It was just it's fun. I think it's
cool.
It
was a cool experience.
Yeah, it's all in good fun. They ripped you to shreds a little bit, but really, I think for a point that was missed, which was
I don't feel like they ripped me to shreds because I don't think they understood what I said or like they ripped like the general idea that other people were making that they like put onto me. Like if they had really engaged with what I said, and ripped it to shreds, I would have felt more insulted. But like I feel like they didn't hear what I was saying, so I don't really feel insulted by
But
it.
what did you think of their take? Here's the thing. I'll wrap it up on this. We actually spoke about this after we made that episode where we reviewed that podcast. I think the more refined point would be, and I think they'd agree with this, but who knows? We'll have to have a joint pod and discuss it. But the difference between the lifestyle they live, which may not be consistent with, say, Torah values or a certain standard, is they're not going out to say we should change the standards, even though they don't always live up to them.
Right.
And maybe there should be accommodations for being sensitive to people who fall short. They're not saying that ever. The people who come in to challenge it are saying that, and that's where they get defensive, to say, you're moving the standards, you're moving the goalposts. We're not saying to do that just because, like, I just got to go out and drink and party, whatever. They're not saying that. Like, I don't hate women. They're not saying that. They're not saying to move the standards, while other people who are challenging fundamentally are the fundamentals are, and that's where you have to get defensive.
Right. Yeah, I guess we're gonna go into it a little bit, but just really this is the last point.
Yeah.
The part about the woman that I did mean is I've seen a lot of people come on the show, and I've seen them who have pretty radical takes on, like, you know, when halacha no longer applies, when people have been abused and there's sexual trauma, and like you need to start doing psychedelics and all these therapies. And what I meant about the women point is, like, it seems like they had the chutzpah to really yell at her and speak to her very rudely. I just don't think they'd have the balls to do that to a dude who was coming on. I don't think they have the balls to like go 2-on-1 yelling at a dude, raising their voices and like calling her like ignorant, like calling the guest ignorant and stupid and using words like that.
Right.
If it wasn't a chick, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they would do that to a dude, and I think that's like representative a little bit of like the culture.
I'll just say I wonder if it's less her gender per se and more the role she was representing. What happened?
The persona.
In the fact that I don't know their stories and life stories personally, but I think in that episode she was touching a nerve about divorce and custody and parental rights that clearly was hitting a nerve, was a bit triggering and a bit like sensitive a topic. So that's what caused the emotions to run high. And so they came at her for that. If a guy came in with the exact perspective who was maybe like a reform or saying exactly point for point what she was saying and triggering all the same emotions, they might have also been like, you're out of control, you're out of your mind. They might have been hard on her, or maybe you would have interpreted it as less aggressive or antagonistic because they were of the same sex. So maybe there was a part of you that was naturally more defensive, and maybe you're the sexist. No, I don't know.
Well, maybe I'm like more old fashioned in there. Yeah. And like, you don't talk to like women like that.
But you talk to men like that, meaning it's like the same.
Yeah, maybe I'm like more traditional and conservative in there.
Right.
Like, it's like rude. Like, you don't do that.
By the way, no way. So
RFK 2024, baby.
You still on that? Oh, he released some stuff that I'm just like, oh god, he's nuts.
Really?
Yeah.